So here we are on the last problem of the solve by factoring notes. We have our word problem, and it is kind of a lengthy one, so try to bear with me, kind of stick with me. There's going to be a lot of setup for this problem before we actually start solving it using factoring. All right, so Timmy is building a 10-foot by 12-foot doghouse for his new guard dog. He wants to pour a concrete foundation for the doghouse and create a walkway around it. He has enough concrete to pour a slab with 168 square feet of surface area. If the walkway needs to have uniform width, how wide should it be? All right, so what we're doing here is basically we know that we have an area of his doghouse, and we want to create an actual patio or walkway around that doghouse. So let's go ahead and kind of draw a picture. Pictures are super helpful with this. So let's go ahead and kind of symbolize his doghouse. So we have a doghouse here that's 10 foot by 12 foot. So I'm going to go ahead and label, if that length is going to be 10, then this length is going to be 12 here. I'm actually going to put that there in the middle. So that means that this length would be 10, and then this length down here would be 12. So we have a 10 foot by 12 foot doghouse. Okay, so let's go ahead and underline that, or actually we can highlight it. 10 foot by 12 foot doghouse. All right, now we know we want to create a concrete foundation and a walkway around it. So underneath this, we're going to have a walkway and underneath we'll have a slab and then a walkway. So this red box is going to be under as well as around. Okay, so that is the foundation as well as the walkway. Okay, I think I might change this back to green underline. I don't know, it's kind of bothering me a little bit. There we go. All right, so what do we basically need to figure out here? We want to basically know what the wideness or how wide this area is supposed to be around, because we want it to be the same around the entire thing. We just got to figure that out. Okay, we know we have enough concrete to pour 168 square feet for the entire thing. So that big red box can basically fill up 168 square feet, but we want to basically figure out how much room are we going to have to walk around this doghouse. And it's a pretty big dog. This is a 10 foot by 12 foot doghouse. All right, so let's go ahead and kind of set this up and talk about what they want. We know that the walkway has to have uniform width. Okay, we want it uniform, which means that we want it the same all the way around. Uniform means the same, kind of like how on a team you all wear the same number, or not the same number, you all wear the same jersey because you're trying to be the same as one another, you're trying to be on the same team, all that stuff. Be on the same team, you're already on the same team. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyways, so we want uniform width, which means this distance right here, we don't know it yet. So obviously if we don't know something, we kind of label that X. So I'm going to go and say that distance right there is X. Well, if that distance is X, then what does this distance also have to be? It has to be uniform, it has to be the same, but we don't know it yet, so this is also going to be a length of X. And same thing down here, we know that that length is going to be X as well because we want it to be the same distance all the way around. And this distance right here will also be X. Why am I doing that? Well, I need to figure out what the length and width of this entire concrete slab is going to be. So that's what I'm doing here. All right, so let's go ahead and find the width of the concrete slab. So basically we want to figure out what the dimension is for this length right here, or this measurement of the width. Okay, well, we know that this middle section right here is 10 feet long. Okay, well, what's the length measurement here then? Well, that's also going to be X, right? Because the distance here and the distance here have to be the same. And then what's the distance down here? Well, that distance is also X. So that means to get the entire width measurement, that's going to be X plus 10 plus X, because I'm going to add all these lengths together to get the entire width of this rectangle. Well, let's go ahead and combine like terms. X plus 10 plus X is going to be 2X plus 10. So the width of this entire rectangle is 2X plus 10. Now we'll move on to finding the length of the rectangle, of the red rectangle. We already know the length of the green rectangle. All right, well, we need to know this distance right here. Well, that distance is also X because we don't know it, but we know it has to have uniform width all the way around. And we know that this distance over here is also X. So that means that the entire measurement of the length down here is X plus 12 plus X. Or in other words, if we combine length terms, 2X plus 12. Okay, so that's our length. That's our width. All right. So let's go ahead and kind of put this all together. We know that this is going to be an area problem. So let's go ahead and write down the formula for area. So area equals length times width. Okay, now we know that we have a maximum of 168 square feet area that we can use for the concrete. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in 168 for our area here. Now our length is we found in pink, and then our width we found in baby blue over there. So our length is 2x plus 12. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in my formula. We have 2x plus 12 times our width, which is 2x plus 10. Okay, so we're still setting up the problem here. So the setup is quite long. I'll let you know when we actually start solving. But basically just setting this up, we have a doghouse. We're trying to create a slab for the entire thing, which is what the red rectangle symbolizes. And then we found the dimensions of the length and the width by adding up the pieces that we know and the pieces we don't know. So the length is 2x plus 12, the width is 2x plus 10. All right, now from here, we know we have to solve by factoring. Well, in order to solve by factoring, I need everything in standard form, and I also need one side to equal 0. Well, right now, nothing's in standard form. It looks like it's factored already, but it's not, because in order for something to be factored, the other side has to equal 0, so this isn't really technically factored. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to double distribute. Okay, so we're going to do 2x times 2x, which is 2x squared, 2x times 10, which is 20x, 12 times 2x, which is 24x, 12 times 10, which is 120. Now this still equals 168, so that hasn't changed. Okay, now the next step here, we want to combine like terms. So we have 20x, I'm going to use a different color, that's hard to see. 20x plus 20x plus 24x, my gosh, I can't speak today. 168 equals, 2x squared stays the same because we're just combining like terms here. We have 44x. And then the 120 stays the exact same. Now this is almost in standard form to start factoring, except one side has to equal 0. And we want to keep that x squared positive. So if one side already equals 0, then we can start, but it doesn't. So we got to move that 168 to the other side. Well, how do I move 168 to the other side? Well, I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to subtract 168 from both sides. So then we have 0 equals 2x squared plus 44x. Oh my gosh, I just realized I made a mistake. 2x times 2x is not 2x, it is 4x squared. My gosh, okay, sorry. The very first thing I did was 2x times 2x, and I put 2x squared, and I was like, looking at that, that was kind of funny. Sorry, I made a mistake. You've probably been yelling at me this whole time. 4x squared. 4x squared plus 44x, and then 120 minus 168, I believe, is negative 48. I will double check that with my calculator. Yeah, negative 48. All right, now is one side equal to 0? And are you in standard form? The answer is yes to both of those. So what did we just do? All of this was the setup. So this is setting up the problem. Okay, now we're actually going to start factoring. So factoring starts here. Okay, so just to kind of give you a, now we're actually going to start solving the problem. Okay, so let's start solving by factoring. Okay, first step when you're solving by factoring is you always look for a greatest common factor. That's the first thing you do every time you factor. So we do have a greatest common factor here. Our greatest common factor here is positive 4. So we have 0 equals on the outside still. Our greatest common factor is 4. We put that on the outside of our parentheses. And then we simplify. 4x squared divided by 4 is x squared. 44x divided by 4 is 11x. And then negative 48 divided by 4 is negative 12. Okay, now remember that GCF of 4 is important, but not until later. So I'm going to go ahead and remind myself that I have a GCF of 4. But I'm not going to do anything with that GCF yet. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the AC method. So we start with A, which is 1 here. B is 11. C is negative 12. Okay, we make our x for our AC, so AC on top, B on the bottom. A times C is 1 times negative 12, which is negative 12, and B is positive 11. Okay, so the next step here is you're looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 12, but add to make 11, which are going to be negative 1 and positive 12. Negative 1 and positive 12. Okay, so we're going to start factoring or rewriting our factors or rewriting our trinomial to factor. 0 equals stays to the front. Remember, the 4 we're going to ignore for now, so we're just pretending it's not there. So x squared and then negative 12. Okay, so then we have negative 1x plus 12x. Okay, so I'm just rewriting and making it, I'm grouping here, right? So I'm splitting that middle term up. So now I have 4 terms. Once you have 4 terms, what are you allowed to do? We're allowed to factor by grouping. So I'm going to go ahead and split my thing down the middle. right? So I'm going to go ahead and factor by grouping of my first group here. Okay, first group, the largest thing that they both have in common, their GCF, is x here, so x is going to go on the outside, and what I have left over, x squared divided by x is x. Negative 1x divided by x is negative 1 because those x's cancel. And then in my second set here, I need to figure out a different color to use. My GCF here is going to be positive 12. So positive 12 here, and then left over of x minus 1. Don't forget about the equal 0 at the beginning. Okay, now we're almost done. The next thing you check for is, do your parentheses match each other? And they do. So we're doing good so far. So we have 0 equals, our first set of GCFs is going to be the x plus 12. And then x minus 1 and x minus 1 is going to be our second. And don't forget about the GCF of 4, so that gets tacked on. So we're done with the factoring part. Factoring is over. We are done factoring. What is the next step, though? Well, the next step is to actually solve this. To solve it, you set all of your factors equal to 0. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and set all our factors equal to 0. I'm trying to find a color that I haven't used already because I feel like I've used every single color. All right, our first factor here is 4. Well, 4 equals 0. Is it possible for 4 to equal 0? No. So that option is eliminated. It doesn't matter. The next factor we have here is x plus 12. We set that equal to 0. Okay, to get x by itself here, we would subtract 12 on both sides. And we have x equals negative 12. Okay, our last factor is x minus 1 equals 0. And then we would add 1 to both sides. So this is x equals positive 1. So we have two answers here, but what's the problem? The whole point of this entire thing was to see if I could find the width or how wide this concrete walkway needs to be. So then I have two answers. Either my walkway is going to be negative 12 feet, or my walkway is going to be 1 foot wide. So either negative 12 feet wide or 1 foot wide. And you got to think about, is it possible for my patio to be negative 12 feet wide? It's not. So that's not our answer, which means our only answer here is that the patio will be, or the walkway will be 1 foot wide. So we did all of this work just to figure out how wide we can have that walkway around that doghouse. It is a lengthy process, and the setup is kind of complicated, and it's not super obvious, so this is a problem people tend to get stuck on. But once you kind of draw a picture and kind of map out what you need, then the factoring part gets a lot easier. If you have any questions, please let me know.